Hi everyone, it's Chelle from Chelle Crochet. Welcome to my November 2023 crochet update. Let's talk whips and finished objects. Hi everyone, it's Chelle. How are you today? I hope you guys are all doing well. I hope all my American friends had a wonderful Thanksgiving last Thursday, and we're in it. It is busy season, and I always get things off to an early start. My dad lives a little bit further away from us in more of a snow belty area of Ontario, not too far from Kitchener, Ontario, and so we like to make sure that we get Christmas accomplished before there's any weather. So that is hopefully going to be happening very soon. And as a result, I have to be super prepared. And I had a bunch of other things going on in November as well, related to being prepared for Christmas that took away some time from crochet. But it was all good fun as well. And also been working a lot as usual. Let me know what you guys have been up to, how you're doing, and if you're making things for the holidays that are crochet related and how that's all going. I love talking with you in the comment section below the video. Also, so that you know up front, there will be links to any tutorials I mentioned in the description box, so you can have a look there if you need anything. And let's just get into it. We're going to go back in time because there was something that I actually made in October that I couldn't show because it was a gift that has already been received. And here's the clip. Hello everyone. I'm not exactly sure when you're going to see this clip because these are gifts. I've made 3 hot pads, double-stranded, using these cotton yarns. So the hot pads had an 8mm hook, and then 3 of the coaster mug rugs have a 5.5, and the gold needed a 5. It's thicker for some reason. So I'm gonna move the hooks, and this cotton I got at the Spin Right outlet in Listowel, Ontario years ago, the first time I ever went to a tent sale, and it was called Handicrafter Deluxe. And same with this one here. This one I got from Priscilla much more recently. But anyway, this is the one. It's called Cayenne. I decided to hold double with all 3 of these colors. So these 2 are Red Heart Scrubby Soft yarns, which I really like, but I think it's pretty much gone these days. So I held the Cayenne double with this and with the orange and with the gold to get these different hot pads. Get nice and close so you can see the 2 colors. And then the orange and the Cayenne, and then the gold and the Cayenne. And yeah, so these are double thick to be able to be used as trivets or hot pads, and then just little mug rugs or coasters to go with each. These are corner to corner with just a nice tight chain border, and these are grannies, which on my last round I did some half double V stitches so I could come back around and work in the V stitches and put a single crochet border around it and make it look all cute. So yeah, those are some gifts for the month of November. So I'll make sure you see it after the birthday has taken place. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled programming. So I had a lot of fun making those. I just wanted to have 3 unique shapes for the hot pads, the double-stranded ones, as you saw in the video. And the yarns I used were interesting too in terms of the color combinations. So that's why I decided to make like little mug rugs, coasters. They could even be tiny little washcloths, whatever the person decides to use them as is open. But the one yarn that I chose to hold through the entire project was a Handicrafter Deluxe cotton from Spin Right that I got it the first time I went to the tent sale, and it was kind of a nostalgia thing too, but it was called Cayenne, and I always laughed at myself for not realizing it wasn't true red when I bought it. So it shows mostly that it's not red when you put it with another red, but it complemented the other 2 colors really well for some fall inspired kitchen stuff. And also just really good colors for the person who it was gifted to. And just to stick with cotton for a minute, I like giving people spa sets and letting them decide what to use them for. So maybe I'll give them a few cloths and a scrubby, and some could be for the bathroom, some could be for the kitchen, and it's really up to them. They can put the interpretation on it, but it also doesn't always have to all get made at the same time or even from the exact same yarn. So some of these things were made more recently, and some of these things have been around for a while. But here is, I'm gonna go from biggest to smallest, and you can tell me in the end how well you think they match. So here's a little corner to corner dishcloth or washcloth. So several different cottons went into this, more than what's just obvious in the camera. So that's the big one. Then we have a slightly smaller one that has the scrubby cotton all the way around the outside on it, still C to C. Then we have this little round one that has 2 different cottons, it looks like, in it. And then we have this actual scrubby double-stranded held with the multicolor from here and then a scrubby on the outside. And all together with a couple bars of soap or a kitchen pump soap or something like that, it makes a really neat gift. And it didn't have to all happen at the same time, but when you have these things made in advance, you can go put it together after the fact and go, oh, really cool gift, especially for this time of year, right? So let's talk about the rest of the cotton stuff that got made in November. Here's a clip.
Good morning, everyone. Today is Tuesday, November the 21st, and the coffee is on, and I'm showing you a couple little cotton things. This was a snowflake I made ages ago, and there were some mistakes in it, so I ripped it back and finished it out as a bit of a festive dishcloth. And then I had some of my scrubby yarn that I think I mentioned I had cut it up basically, and I pulled all the plain cotton apart from the scrubby cotton. So the center of this one has double scrubby cotton, and then the outside is just a single round of the regular cotton for a little festive dish set. That's probably going to go to my mom and some of her gifts. And I have made a few of these. Some of them are already packaged up to go in gifts, and I'm not sure that I took clips or photos. It was a while ago. So this is Jayda and Stitch's Poinsettia double-stranded pot holder, and there was a live tutorial that had these going on in them a few weeks ago. At the time I had made some in the more sunflowery colors, and then I had made a poppy. So now I've actually made a couple of these poinsettia versions. I made one with another pot holder for my dad and stepmother, and then this one is for our kitchen. So in this one I have a little leftover of that Mary Maxim old scrub it yarn that had the ribbon style cotton, and then I just held two different reds together throughout. And then the center has those French knots with the double black. And I took a little clip earlier that I will insert now to show you what I do to hide the mess. Hey everyone, I have been making a few of these poinsettias, and they're double-stranded projects. I followed the tutorial by Jayda and Stitches, which will be linked below, but I just wanted to mention that I've used this kind of trick before with black yarn and ends that you don't necessarily want to show. So you can see how she had this idea of doing some French knots to mimic the pistons in the poinsettia centers, which I think is a cute, adorable idea. And I was able to pull through a bunch of stitches, so there's relatively nothing showing. I haven't actually weaved these ends in yet. For example, here where you see this dot, I'm just going to take this Sharpie and I'm going to color it. It's just a little bit of cotton, so I don't think there's any problem with that. And I mean, I didn't have to do this on the center of any of the other ones, but there's a little one right here showing that I don't particularly care for. And over there, you can just tidy up anything you like when it has to be black with a Sharpie. And, you know, it'll dry, and then this is completely launderable, so indelible ink won't come off. Anyway, that's a little trick I use, so I wasn't sure if anybody might find it helpful. Yeah, so that is how the back looks when it's all woven in and hidden with Sharpie. This is something else I'm working on. So a few of the gifts I make for my dad are things I make, like salad dressing and some mixed nuts. Put them in a big mason jar. So I made this big one already. I used a granny square bottom this time. And so the mesh, I did it with chains of 3 with double crochets. And I'm about to start one for the smaller jar. And I will show you how it looks when I'm done. Okay, so granny square is made, and I'm just about to do a round where I just don't increase in the corner. Stick that guy on there so you can see. And it's gonna turn up into a cup shape, and then after that I'm gonna do some mesh stitching with 3 chains and double crochets, and I'll put another little clip for you. All right. If you're gonna do this for wine bottles, mason jars, just don't be alarmed that they look kind of small, because they do stretch out a bit for the mesh, and they go on like that. It's really quick and you don't need many rows at all. And I will just do one more little clip when it's all done. And she's done. Just did a little chain of red to go on the outside, attached a couple of beads. Those types of beads come in really handy for me for different things. And that is going to be full of salad dressing before it is gifted at Christmas. Okay guys, hope you found this helpful. Back to our regularly scheduled programming.
So I managed to grab these two. I haven't wrapped these gifts yet, but it will be imminently wrapped. But there are some more. There's probably about 4 granny square dishcloths that have already been wrapped up. And I think 2 more hot pads, one exactly like this and one slightly different, that have already been wrapped up as well. So there was quite a bit of love with cotton over the course of the month of November. And let me know what you thought of my little hack with the black Sharpie. I hope I'm not leading anyone astray, but I think it's a great idea. Okay, so I did not take any more video of my blanket, but it is done, and it was a lot happened on it in the beginning of November. I did a lot more on it than I thought I was going to. I was using like the modern granny style stitch. So you have the fast row and the long row. In between each row is just the chain 2 single crochet rows. So that is actually kind of what made me decide how to do it, because I had to do it once to get my border started. So the beige actually is the one where it shows within the actual other stitches. I'll put a picture on the screen too, just in case I have a shot that's showing better what I'm talking about. I don't want everything to fall down if I move the blanket completely. But everybody knows that when you do this stitch, where you're going in to do your single crochets creates a little bit of yarn showing in that color. And I finished the corners in beige. So I decided to stick with that color and go all the way around the outside, which kind of also mimicked the center. The very first row, or the very last row of the square before I started reducing the corners was also in that sand color. So I ended up doing, in actual fact, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 rows of border, and there's a little extra single crochet border at the very end just to keep it all nice. And I love this blanket, and I'm super happy it's for me. My girlfriend said to me yesterday, "Are you sure I can't have that one?" And she doesn't need any more blankets, and she knows that. But I love the colors that are in this blanket for fall, and I put some gray in there just to represent there's a lot of gray in my house. And I know that some of the colors in here came from the temperature blankets I worked on last year in 2022. So it's just gonna be fun to have it as a I learned a new thing project, and I used up scraps project, and I used up stash yarn that I had no purpose for project. It's awesome as a square, which I always tend to make my blankets rectangular because I figure that they're more rectangular blankets are more suited to most people's needs. But I had this on our leather couch, which you know, blankets slip and slide all over leather couches, or faux leather couches, if you will. But it stayed on the back of my couch really nice as a square blanket. So it really worked out well. I'm sure I will make others. And my girlfriend was also saying to me, imagine how cool that would look if you just planned out the colors you wanted. And I agree completely. But I love the idea of being able to have a diamond in the center of a square blanket like that. And the decreases, they weren't too much of a drag because they sped up. So yeah, you had to do 4 different quarters and work your way back down, but you get to go faster every time because it's less and less blocks, right? And then this modern granny border, it worked out really well for what it is. You can see the picture now that I'm popping up, where the border is not detracting from the main event at all, but it's a substantial border. So I got the extra length and width that I wanted all the way around the blanket. Anyway, I know I said I wasn't going to talk too much about it, but a lot of work did go into it in the month of November. And if you have any questions, please let me know. This one we're just revisiting really quick. I told you last time that it was mainly done, and I think I popped it on for you. I just put fur on the outside, and in the opening I like to leave on the side so that it doesn't stand up too much on you, and it goes down over your shoulder and back of your neck a little bit, and it folds down in the front, so it's a super warm, cozy, half double crocheted, double stranded, anti-pilling yarn. Cowl. Some other really quick things I did. Jumping off point was the sleeves I put on my coat that I almost forgot to tell you about last time. I've been playing around. I've started to play around. I want to do some more with these types of wristers for keeping you warm and just being able to wear whenever. This is not necessarily intended to be worn out in the cold, although it could be. But I have some sweatshirts. This one's actually pretty good in terms of how long it is on the arms, but I have some that are actually a little bit shorter than I would like. So I just made these. I'm digging into some of my Premier Anti-Pilling bobbins. I do want to put that yarn on my list for 2024 as a yarn that I'd like to be able to take out of the stash, because it's not going to be a yarn that I continue to have as part of my yarnscape. They're really pretty colors, and there's a lot of ways that I can use them next year. So I started off with one that I had tried to dig into a while ago, and I have the, there's actually scraps and some of that yarn in here. I have scraps from the sweater I made my mom last year, which was Premier Anti-Pilling Everyday Medley, and then I have the two-tone black and gray from the bobbin. And yeah, and so I just made these wristers that go up about that far, and nice thumb holes. I did the thumb holes by just leaving it open and seaming it up that way later, which I like that idea of a thumb hole better than when you're working in the round. And I don't really think you can see the seams too much. I'm gonna hold it closer in a second. I actually did them two different ways. And so yeah, and there's a lot of post stitches here to give it some texture, and just some flatter stitches around the wrist. But yeah, I just winged it, and I wanted them to keep my hands warm. If my hands start barking at me with the arthritis, then having them a little warmer can help. So maybe I should keep it on when I show it closer. That might help. So this is one of them, and there's the seam. You can't really tell much at all. And this one you can tell a little bit more because I dropped down to just the black yarn. So you can see the seam a little bit more on this one. Not substantially, but a little bit. So those were fun, and they didn't take long, and I think I made them in the same sitting so that they'd be pretty similar size-wise. I held the yarn double, and I think I was using a 6.5mm hook to keep it fairly dense. And then another thing I just made on the fly the other day, I had a training that I had to participate in, and it's actually easier for me to concentrate on those the video style type trainings if I'm crocheting. So I just started to make a granny stitch style hat. So I like to do my granny stitch style hats by just starting with 2 double crochets instead of 3. It's easier for me to increase that way. And then once I got to the circumference of the hat big enough, I just continued on, and I just went until I ran out of yarn. So I still might add, I haven't decided if I'm keeping this hat or not. It's nice and big, but I know it would also like fit my dad, for example. And it's this tail end of some Red Heart Comfort fleck yarn that I have that I love. That I particularly love this colorway because it's the army green, and it's got the little blue flecks that show the most, but there are other flecks in there, some brown and some green of different shades. But I haven't been able to find this yarn in literally years because I started looking when I had the 2 balls in case I could make a bigger project, but it's been gone for a long time. Anyway, so it's just beanie length. Like for me, I'd need more for the brim so that I can really sludge it the way I like. But it's definitely big enough for me. And also I tightened it in here just a smidge because again, I haven't decided yet who's having this hat. If I'm gonna keep it, I might just take that last roll of single crochet out before I put whatever brim on it. But yeah, I just made that the other day. Well, mostly while I was in my meeting, about half of it anyway. So something else happened in the beginning of November that was a lot of fun. And here's a clip. Proof. Hey everyone, I got a surprise for you. Today is Sunday, November the 12th, and look who's at my house. Oh, you're gonna hold it still? Okay. It's Crystal.
Hello.
I have a video editor today, so if my hand gets in the way, I'm sorry, but look who came to visit me.
I came to visit and steal yarn.
She brought yarn too. Anyway, we just wanted to say hi so we can include this in the November video.
Hello, people. And bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So as you can see, there is proof of Crystal from Crow's Crochet Corner. She came to visit me a few weeks back, and it was great to see her and meet her husband Pete in person and hang out and have a nice visit. I had been to see her, I guess it was probably 2 years ago this summer, and we almost tried to get together last year, but we finally made it happen, and it was great to see her. She brought me all kinds of wonderful goodies that I'm looking forward to getting into. I even have some out here just if I ever have a moment to just be able to do something for fun, but that moment hasn't happened yet. Anyway, we had a great visit, and it was always great to hang out with Crystal. Usually we do that over FaceTime or Zoom, but it was much better in person. Anyway, let's see what else I was crocheting this month. I'm gonna pop up a picture here, which is a tale of woe. I have tried to get this wrap finished probably about 6 times in the last 2 years. Initially I started it and I didn't like how the really lacy open stitches were looking with the other months that had denser stitches, and I think at that point I had made it to like May or June. I'd made it fairly far along, ripped it all the way back to January so that I could start using 2 different hook sizes. January is definitely the loosest stitch of all of the months, and I should say, I feel like you all know this already, but it's based on the Victorian Stitch Sampler blanket, calendar blanket Jayda did in 2018. And I thought it would be so cool to have a wrap of it, and particularly in this yarn, which is the Mandala Ombre Spirit colorway. And I love the colorway, and I think I would actually get decent use out of it, but it's just not playing with me. And so this month alone, I redid, I don't know what month it is, I think April, 2 to 3 times. Like I stopped myself, but it worked out to be like 2 to 3 times. And so we're still back at a situation where I only have January, February, March in the picture that you can see, I believe. And I don't know what I'm gonna do. I feel like I'm kind of caught. I can either just fudge it and pick stitches that I know will go better, and make a cowl, let's just say, and call it a day. But I had the idea that all the yarn that I put aside to that would be together in one project. So also, when I do a little bit of math, I'm not sure it's going to be long enough as is anyway. So actually saying that out loud just gave me another idea entirely. I wonder if I just pick another stitch that isn't in there and do it next. If I try to do the one that's giving me so much trouble. After it might work out. So stay tuned. Maybe I'll give it one more try. But I have come and gone from that project a lot this year, and it's frustrating. It may be my first ever unfinished object. I'm usually pretty good at finishing stuff or turning it into other stuff. So, and I'm not talking about stuff I've just frogged and made a completely different thing, but I'm talking about like, you know, a project where it's just sitting around for a while. I don't usually have that. This is actually really the first year I've had any long-term whips, because I have 2 blankets I can work on anytime I want to, but at least they're modular. So I can say, like, right now the Mile a Minute blanket I have on the go, the strips are all done. It's not like I'm halfway through a row or anything. I just got to decide when I want to finish trimming them and putting it together. And my variegated project is just started, my variegated grannies, so it's not like it's got to be done anytime soon anyway. I just started doing it a couple months ago. But I'm not really big on that sort of stuff. I'm kind of like, oh, it's a brand new month. I get to do whatever I want. Or I have these commitments I've got to finish this month because I have certain things I promised to people or certain things I want for myself. And then when the month is ending up, I'm wanting to make sure that all that stuff is wrapped up. That's just how I've always liked to do it. But this year has been a bit different. And this particular wrap has been a challenge. But we'll see. Any suggestions or advice, please feel free to let me know. So what I like to do when something's getting me down crochet related is I like to pick pretty yarn and make pretty things with it. I had a lot of fun with the gray scarf like this that I made last month. So I decided to make another one, and I decided to use some very new yarn that I only got when Lens Mills had that big sale, and I showed you guys. It's a Red Heart something gemstone. I'm glad it came to me. And we start way skinny like this, and we work our way up to the point in the front. Oops, it hasn't been like thrown in the dryer yet to relax it / shell block it. And then all the way back down on this side here. Gotta love it. Love the striping on this. It's pretty warm. It's a 5. It's very similar to like puzzle yarn. So yeah, there's another. And I love them. They're very easy to wrap. That's what I like about them the most. Sometimes scarves can be a bit of a pain in the butt, but because they're so skinny on the sides, they wrap around you nicely. There's not all that bulk of a full triangle shawl, but I think I did this last time too. If you're, you know, wearing it because it's chilly out and then you want it for inside somewhere, you still get the benefit of having the back of your neck and a little bit of your shoulders covered. And also you can choose to make it as wide as you want. I just chose to make mine pretty shallow, more as a scarf than an actual shawl. But I might have to try some shawl versions this way too. Anyway, I enjoy this. It's fun, it's easy. Just got to get your hook in your yarn to get along, and it's pretty much a no-brainer at that point. So again, there was no tutorial for this, but it's based on the concept of asymmetrical shawls, but you're actually working your way up and to a certain width and then back down again evenly, as evenly as you can. I mean, I don't think it has to be perfect. If you're making it for the first time, following a great tutorial would probably be a good idea. It was fun and I loved the yarn. So when you have a scarf, you need to have a hat. I think this is big enough for me. So this part is nice and slouchy and big. I did make the brim a little tight for how I would like to wear them, just so that someone else, it wouldn't be falling off their head if someone else wanted this. And then I had a little bit of yarn left over. I had 2 balls of this Red Heart gemstone, and I'll put the name of the colorway at the bottom. And so this one, I purposely made a very small hat so that I wouldn't run out of yarn. Still have a hat and what ended up being a cowl. But isn't the yarn pretty? It is pretty. Unfortunately, the only other colorway Lens Mills had at the time didn't appeal to me at all. But, and this is the little neck warmer to go with that set. Maybe I'll just put them like this. So more of a basic beanie with some post stitches at the bottom and then just a V-stitch cowl. I like the idea of the V-stitch cowls a lot when you're running out of yarn because it goes pretty far. And the stitches are still fairly close together. So it's still nice and cozy around the neck. Okay, so that was a mood boost for me after struggling with that wrap. We had gone away for our anniversary for a couple of days in November, and I was struggling with that wrap while we were away, and so this was what I used as a pick-me-up after that. So I'm going to pop up a picture here. I had these wristers hanging out in this yarn for the longest time, and I'm pretty sure that I had a hat and scarf that went with them at one point, but the person didn't want the wristers, so they were just sitting there. So you can see the difference in the size before I started playing around with them. So the bottom half of this is previously crocheted, and the top half is brand new. And these ones are quite nice and long as fingerless gloves now. And so this part of the crochet is much looser because it's already been in the dryer. This part has not yet. And I just trimmed with a little bit of Mary Maxim sparkle yarn in a burgundy color, and I'll show you why in a sec. But there's 2. Don't think that there's only one. And I just let the yarn do what the yarn did. For the most part, I tried to pick up from where the yarn had left off a little bit, but they're not, you know, they match, but they're not the same, right? It's the same yarn, it's just not exactly the same, but I don't mind it at all. And if nobody wants them, I'll keep them. Okay, so those were the glove parts of that. And then there's a hat, which does not fit me. And this is just a V-stitch hat. I think it's a V-stitch hat and cowl actually, with a very little bit of the sparkle on the bottom as well. And then this is the cowl. I needed the burgundy sparkle for this. That's why they all got some, just to give it a little bit more in the neck. Tiny little seam on the side, again, just to keep it a little less likely to pop up on you under your coat. And nice and cozy still. So not a super big cowl, but a still get the job done, keep you warm cowl with a hat and potentially some fingerless gloves. I actually like these for over gloves. Like I like to have this kind of an extra layer because you can put your regular gloves on, and then when you pull this down over top of them, gloves don't keep your hands the warmest. So that extra layer can really help. And there's a bunch of different ways you can pull that off. But that's part of the reason I wanted the sleeves extended on my jacket as well. And I plan to do the same thing on my winter coat. It's the loops and threads version of the puzzle yarn. And if I still have the ball band, I'll put the name at the bottom. I'm not even sure if they make this one anymore. I have been seeing though that there's Puzzle Sparkle these days. I really liked the puzzle yarn, but I'm trying to focus only on yarn that I want to be in my yarnscape and not yarns that I don't plan to be getting a lot of, or that aren't easy for me to get a lot of. It's been really funny this year with Michaels and shopping for yarn. I have really tried not to buy yarn this year, and I let myself have a little clearance type splurge on my birthday from Lens Mills. But my husband started his perler beading a year ago, November, and he has been to Michael's countless times this year. And I think one time that we were there, I actually got some yarn. And it was clearance yarn, and it was to go with existing yarn I already have to make a blanket. So I have a purpose for that yarn. But yeah, it's so funny. Even the other day, he was going because they were doing some of their Black Friday stuff, and his beads were super on sale. So he was stocking up on colors, and everything was, I guess, buy two, get one free for the yarn. So like 30% off basically. And I was looking through and I was like, oh, maybe I'll treat myself to one of my favorites. Karen Big Cakes have always been a favorite of mine, although I haven't gotten any in years. So I don't even know if they're the same as they used to be. But I didn't even want to buy any. I don't find when the price of those cakes has gone to $15 each, $14.99. So buy two, get one free. I'm still paying $10 a cake, which was the price of the yarn when it first came out, and I fell in love with it. And then I used to wait till it would go on clearance for like $5 or so. So anyway, that's just how I am about yarn. And I guess it's good, right? Because I don't really want, not really, I don't want my yarnscape to grow. I want it to shrink. And I find I struggle with that part. And here in Canada, we don't have as much options for really good deals and really good brands like you guys do in the US. So, and everybody else in the other parts of the world. I don't know how it is for the UK and Australia as much, or other parts of the world, but anyway, like we've said before many times, it is two different hobbies. One of my hobbies is crochet, and the other one is having a yarnscape. Here's a clip of a little Kleenex box cover I quickly made the other day to go with my Christmas decor in my bathroom. Oh, I found something else. I wasn't even going to talk about this guy. I quickly made this pump soap cover the other day and added a snowflake applique to it. In hindsight, the snowflake applique is a bit big, but I don't mind it. It's just for me. I have a lot of blue and white decor in here. So I made that. And it is just in the round. I actually started with the hole, like as if I was making a scrunchie without the elastic being there. And then I got to a place where I had enough stitches to start doing granny stitch. Made these little corners here and then took them away right away. And then I had seen something pop up on Instagram, I think, where someone was working with beads. And I was like, I bet you those beads will fit through here. So I grabbed a smaller hook and pulled the beads through the yarn and then put a row of beads around it. So it's just for these little square ones, but I think it looks quite good, and it worked out fine and easy in some Bernat Sparkle white yarn. The sparkle is not silver in this yarn, so it's a bit hard to see, especially on camera, but it goes with my decor in my bathroom. So yay, another FO for November. Back to our regularly scheduled programming. And finally, we have two friends. There's a little bit of a backstory about this guy here. I was asking my mom if she needed a couple of things, and she started mentioning that she had a bunch of Christmas mice that she's collected over the years that are part of her decor, and there was a backstory as to why. And so I actually made her a mouse, and I'm quite confident she doesn't watch these videos without prompting. So if anybody else is that knows her, please do not tell her about this. It only has to last for another week or so, because she's getting 12 days of Christmas from me, and she will be able to open this quite early on. But here he is. I don't know the best way to show him so you can see all of him. He's pretty big. I used Bernat Blanket Breezy in a gray color and held it double. I want to get him nice and close so you can see. So there's good things and bad things about using that yarn. You basically can't see your stitches at all. And I was willing to put up with that because I knew when I would have to sew everything on that it was going to make it disappear a lot more and not look like I had to sew everything on, which is one of the reasons I don't generally do these types of amigurumis at all. And I even tried my best and I stuck a little pipe cleaner to make his tail do that. He does stand up. I did add the hat myself and I felt I had to put a tiny bit of stuffing in it. So once I added the hat and scarf just to make him Christmas, he doesn't stand up as well as he used to, but I don't think that'll be a problem for her. So, you know, hindsight would have said put a little bit more weight in his butt other than just stuffing. But it was fun. I got to use one of my noses, which I've barely used any of my noses from my one set of eyes I have. And then I used some bigger regular black eyes for him and a tiny little mouth. But I'll pop up a picture here on the screen. I just searched and searched and searched until I found something that looked like the type of mouse I thought I could maybe make. And it was interesting because it was the picture wearing the coat that I found first. And then finally I found the tutorial for the original mouse she made. And it's a very old tutorial, but it's very well done. There's no issues with it at all, except for me, I was like laughing at myself because there she is making this beautiful mouse in this, you know, regular yarn, and I'm trying to hold two strands of this breezy yarn together to make him. But I think it was a win overall, and I think my mom is going to be really happy when she sees him. And I'm not gonna make her wait too far into her 12 days of Christmas gifts. I'm gonna let her have it pretty early on in the beginning, but we'll see. It was so funny though. Jayda was doing a whole bunch of lives last week, and literally the day that I heard from my mom about this Christmas mouse situation was the day Jayda was making the mice, and she was making the little guys. So I'm still hoping to get a couple of those made to be able to put in my mom's gifts and maybe like string her along for a couple days so she doesn't realize she's getting the big one. But I was happy with him. And then the other one tail of woe I had this time was I've been wanting to try to make myself some leg warmers, which was from a live Jayda did way back, probably in October. And I haven't been successful yet. So I was going to use this. I had one skein of this blanket yarn that I got at Cambridge Fibers ages ago. And so it didn't have the label, but I mean, obviously it's blanket yarn, you can tell, right? And so I made this big guy. Octo, Rel from the Dabbling Hooks tutorial is the one I always follow. He's got fancier eyes. I don't know how well you can see that. I should have used even bigger ones than I did. I had a face on him. I had eyebrows and a smile, and I took it off. So I'm gonna use a thicker yarn to do it. And I mean, I'm still playing with his shape. This is what I do with them because they can have different shapes depending on what you do with them, right? So I don't know, we'll see. He's okay. It's harder and harder for me to be using the blanket yarn. My hands do not love it. So anyway, he's cute, and it was basically just because I was frustrated with the leggings, so I made something different. I had the stuffing out. Because of this guy. So now we got this guy too. And he'll get a face, and I'll take a picture and I'll throw the picture in somewhere along the line. Which leads me to the month of December. I'm not really sure what's gonna happen in the month of December. I have some things I have to get organized, and it's not really letting me think forward past it. Yeah, so basically I will see you sometime between December 15th and December 25th, and we will go from there. I'm gonna practice reminding myself to take some breaks and just relax and enjoy the fact that the holidays are here. I hope you guys will all do the same and have lots of fun things planned for yourselves throughout the holiday season. And I look forward to talking with you guys all again soon. In the meantime, have a great day and happy crochet. Bye everybody.